guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Tita Lavinia of Tita's Pageantry, and for this episode, I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on the top 10 best performers at the recently concluded Miss Universe Philippines 2021 Evening Gown Preliminary. Please make sure you stick around. Please subscribe to the channel as well as hit that bell notification button for your weekly pageant fix. Hey guys, so I know a lot of you are anxious. In just a few hours, we will be having our new Miss Universe Philippines. And as of now, the ladies are safe in Bohol. They have made several appearances from rehearsals as well as welcome dinners. And on social media, I'm pretty sure you've seen some of the footages of the stage they're constructing as well as the set design. So this event will take place in Bohol at the Henann beach resort. So it looks really very promising, and if what we're seeing with more movements, with more footages of whatever it is that they're fixing there, it makes us think that they will have a grander production than what we saw from the preliminaries, when we saw some of the ladies who were already sitting on the floor with no chairs and no tables. So hopefully the situation will be better for the final show. And more than that, I think we just have to be thankful that they will finally push through with the final show. Now, I initially thought of releasing my video on Q&A, but I kind of felt that that material was just a little too heavy to edit and a little too heavy to discuss, and I wanted something fun for you the day before the finals. I wanted something a little lighter for you. That's why I did this research, because although other vloggers would have other contents on who their top 10 are, I'm pretty sure they haven't really dug deep enough to really uncover the inspiration and the story behind some of these garments. So this is what I would like to present to you. So I came up with a list of 10 ladies, and this will be a mix of those who did really well in terms of performance, as well as those gown designs that I really liked. And unfortunately for this group, I really wasn't blown away. There were maybe one or two gowns that I really liked that catered really to my taste, but more than that, I think most of the women in this list will really get in because of their performance. So I cannot wait to decode the wardrobe for you. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this one started. So number 10 on my list is someone whose star has begun to rise, and it's organic. I'm really very excited. This one is from Misamis Oriental, and of course her name is Chella Grace Falconer. Chella wore a lipstick red vixen dress by Juniel Doring. Now, I don't know a lot about Juniel Doring. I just know that he has done several creations for Chella, and he seems to know Chella's body type, which is interesting because she is more on the petite side, but she does have curves. So it's going to be a challenge for the designer to really fit a garment with those killer curves and still make her look taller. And that was exactly what he did when he made this beautiful lipstick red gown for her. It's fully embellished. There's really nothing crazy about the design. It's just that it really fit Chella and her personality. And I do know that the bun gives her more height, but I wish that come final she would reconsider making some changes when it comes to her hairstyle, because I feel like Chella does have that old Hollywood vibe going on. Sometimes I would liken her to a beauty that's more on the Lana Del Rey side. So maybe if she could channel that, if she could have the full Veronica Lake waves and then go for a full Jessica Rabbit and not really pull back from it, then yeah, I think it's good to go for Chella. Number 9 on my list is of course the beautiful Maureen Robowitz of Pangasinan. Now, her dress is nicknamed Ursula, and this was made by Chua. Now, I understand that reception for this dress is 50-50. A lot of people felt that Maureen had a difficult time walking, so I'm with you on that. It's just that because a lot of the looks were rather underwhelming for this edition, I felt that at least the Chua dress had design. At least the Chua dress had thought process. And for us to really have more of an appreciation for what this dress actually means, you would have to dig a little deeper and check out what Chua has to say about it. So since the inspiration is Ursula, it is associated with the sea. This is the reason why it has a lot of a play of colors that are related to the sea. So we have a lot of aqua, we have a lot of blues, a lot of greens, that they were able to employ this technique to get the actual shade they wanted by hand dyeing it. And apart from that, so that they could achieve the flow of the water as well as the movement, they went into hand beading the linear accents that you see so that it would be shaped against Maureen's body and that beautiful hips that we've been talking about for the past few days, and used crystals, sequins, as well as beads to embellish that. And I thought that looked really pretty. Maybe the final product just ended up a little heavy, maybe because of that beadwork, but I'm sure this is something that they can modify. I'm sure that this is something that the team can work on. Number 8 on my list is Corinne Abalos of Mandaluyong. Now, this was a collaboration that I got really excited with because I am a fan of Mark Bumgarner and his works. So it was really nice to see Corinne look like the belle of the ball in her yellow ball gown by Mark Bumgarner. Now, this one, of course, has all of Mark Bumgarner's signature. It has the construction of a gown with a silhouette that's more on the classic 1940s, 1950s silhouette. This also had that beautiful detail on the hip side. We've seen this on Laura Lehman when she won, and then we've also seen variations of that in some of Mark's creations in one of his collections. But this time around, he went a little rogue by introducing beadwork. Now, I've seen a glimpse of what Mark can do in terms of beadwork. He did create a gown for Dindi Pajares back in the day in her second bid for a crown. It was yellow, it had lots of rhinestones, and then this was actually worn for a photo shoot by Laura Lehman. So we have an idea that he could do more beadwork, but this time around they went for something more elegant, something really flashy. So if you see the cutouts on Corinne's gown, it's fully beaded, it extends to the back. But what's really interesting about this gown is the detail from the arms up until the back. So it looks like a back lace, or it looks like a fringe necklace with droplet crystal beads. I thought that was really nice. I mean, every time you put that at the back, I mean, it gets me really excited. However, I do feel that it's a little heavy, so maybe if they just cut the hem of or the train of the gown, and I thought that maybe it was just a little too blingy when they added more beads embroidered at the train. So I think that if they could just taper off the actual gown and then went away with the extra bling, this would have been a more successful look. But nevertheless, Corinne looked beautiful, and yeah, she looked like a princess. Number 7 on my list, I know will raise eyebrows because I know that there will be passionate commenters out there who will ask me, Tita, why put her in the number 7? Tita, why that low? Well, I hope you'll hear me out on this. But yes, I am putting my number 7 spot to Steffi Rose Aberasturi of Cebu Province. Now, her gown was made by Philipp Tampus. We all know Philipp Tampus as also the same designer who created Rogelie Katakutan's beautiful terno with pearls back in the day. So this is a designer who makes romantic creations. So for him to do something more modern, more edgy for Steffi is already a feat. Now, I put her in my number 7 spot because I think a lot of you will agree that unfortunately this gown did not translate well on video. It sort of blended with Steffi's skin tone, with the background, as well as the flooring. So this performance was just actually saved by Steffi being Steffi. This was saved by how well Steffi showcased the garment, and I think that deserves a spot in at least the best performance because that proves that it's not the gown design, it's the way the person carries the garment. And, you know, that very essence was something that we saw from Steffi's performance. Now, this is a type of gown that had thought process as well, but this is something that you would have to look more into when you see other photos of this gown. Unfortunately, it did not showcase the details on the video, apart from the fact that it was more on the abrupt side. The lighting itself really overpowered the blush and nude color of the gown and its beadwork. But I did hear from a source that if you photograph the gown under, you know, perfect lighting conditions, it actually looks like a wetsuit. So for me, that's really very interesting. Looking at the photos that were available by some of the creatives who worked with Steffi, you could also see the design details of this gown. Instead of an actual bodice that's more just with fabric manipulation, this one had more of a structure. Even the cutout at the back of the gown is just a little different from what we've been seeing in pageantry. And I like the linear details as well as the braided straps of the gown. I thought that was really something very different. Next on my list for number 6 is Bea Luigi Gomez, a fellow Cebuana, this time representing Cebu City. Now, Bea was one of the 2 ladies who wore a couture design by Furne Amato. Now, this is a beautiful gown. It's embellished, so this one really caters to sparkly sparkle loving people like me, so I really thought that this was a nice gown. It also had Furne Amato's signature of putting feathers at the hem, so if it were just up to me, it would have been nice had it been just a fully beaded gown without the feathers, because if you add more trappings to the gown, I think that it may not be with cohesive to how we see Bea Luigi, someone who's more on the fierce side, someone who's more on the edgy side. So I don't know, maybe it's just me. I've always imagined Bea in maybe black or maybe midnight blue or maybe, an intense emerald green. So everything worked well. Maybe I was just a little confused with, hard to miss red coloring of the gown. But all in all, you know what? If she exchanged gowns, maybe with Katrina de Maranan, had she worn a black gown that Katrina wore, I think it would make sense, just to match the personality with the gown. But I think next on my list, my number 5 spot goes to, again, the luminous Laren May Bautista, who looked like a goddess herself in her silver Louis Pangilinan. So the inspiration for this gown is, of course, Mariang Makiling, and I think that this is just fitting because Laren is representing Laguna and representing Laguna proudly. So this is an intricately arranged gown with beautiful beadwork. The beadwork though, and the look and feel of the gown, for me, I feel like it's a mashup of a little bit of Kat, a little bit of Rachel Peters, a little bit of Paulina Vega, but all in all, it came together nicely. It came together cohesively, and I like that even if it's just fully beaded, there's a little bit of a delicate vibe to it. Like for me, it's something like maybe the elves would do, or maybe, the types of Mariang Makiling would do with a little bit of magic and maybe silver thread. So, I also like the editorial photos that they released, because when Laren walked for the preliminaries, she had her hair in a bun, and it was just very, beauty pageant like. So I really appreciated how the gown looked like in closer detail when they released these editorial photos, because I felt like everything came together with her long jet black hair, beautiful Filipina features, and that delicate garment. Number 4 in my list is another lady who wore silver. I'm going to talk about this a little more later on. But this one goes to another lady who wore a Furne Amato creation, and this is Victoria Velasquez Vincent of Cavite. Now, this gown is more on the gunmetal shade of silver, so it's a little more intense, and you could really see more of the details pop compared to the other silver gowns that we saw from the preliminaries. And this one, I think, fit her really well. This was one of the gowns that was featured in one of Furne Amato's posts with a model for a cover of IDEM magazine. I don't know if I pronounced this right, but yes, unfortunately, I wasn't able to see the gown from one of his collections, but it did make an appearance for that magazine cover. And I like the fit of the gown on Victoria. I think she is the perfect model for the gown, because the gown did not end up looking as if it was made for a model in a sample size. For me, this looked like it was really made for her, because it accentuated her curves, it accentuated her bosom, as well as, really made her look a lot taller because of that slit. Number 3, a lot of people were really angry because in my last video for the swimsuit, I put her in my number 10th spot. Now, I hope that this will appease some of the pageant fans out there who felt slighted. I put her in my number 10th spot, but I'm just trying to be fair, you guys. Number 3 goes to one of my favorite garments in the competition. I'm talking about the Gigs Katrina de Maranan. Now, Katrina de Maranan wore a jet black Martin Bautista gown. Now, if you are followers of Tita's of Pageantry or my personal account, I'm Lilith1521_ or this channel, then you would know that Martin Bautista is one of my major favorite designers. And it's weird because we, get to talk behind the scenes, and, every time he DMs me, I just fangirl. Even if I send him like maybe screenshots of Sailor Moon or whatever it is that we have in common, I still fangirl. But I really love this designer, and I'm really glad that he crossed over to our side, because I came to realize that a lot of these fashion designers that we know from fashion are actually a little afraid to go over to our side because we can get a little vicious with all of our critiques. But this time around, I think that his gown was received very well. So this was inspired by the tapis. And I saw the mood board. I was able to decipher some of the images, and I think that he was able to capture this for Katrina. There were inspirations that were taken from Salvacion Slims Higgins with how she did her drape work. There were also references to, you know, the sheer bejeweled garments that were worn by Cher back in the day, and of course the dangerous black that Tom Ford is really very fond of. We also saw some inspirations pertaining to just how sheer and how net-like Kendall Jenner's La Perla gown was for the Met Gala some years back. And because this inspiration is very Filipino, the tapis, I also saw some inspiration coming from Amor Solo and how he would depict, you know, river maidens and how the tapis gracefully folds a fabric, and it's sensual. And this is exactly how we saw it from the way Katrina presented it. So what I like about this is that it was interpreted in a modern way. You could see the drape work from the tapis that we've come to know, but we also saw a lot of Martin Bautista's signature. And one of the, you know, signature that is just so obvious out there is Martin Bautista's crystal fringe details. So I really liked everything, even with her hair up. I thought it was really commanding of her. If there was one thing that's eating me, it's really the pair of shoes that she wore. I thought it was just a little too clunky for that delicate gown, but you know, I totally understand because they have to wear shoes, of course, from the sponsor. I just wish that she picked a different shoe, because had it been silver from one of the Brega's designs, the one that they wore at Miss Universe, I think it would have worked well. Or if she really went for maybe a nudist heel with just a single strap at the ankle and a single strap for the toes with, you know, really, really high stiletto heels, I think it would really work as well. Number 2 on my list is something that I'm really very excited for, because for me this is a marriage of a pageant gown and a red carpet gown, and no one else could do that better than Rajo Laurel for Ingrid Santamaria of Parañaque. Now again, Rajo Laurel was one of the designers who graced us with his presence, at least for the pageantry side, because although he has been very active when it comes to pageantry talks, I remember being a teenager and really waiting for the Sunday papers right after Miss Universe so that I can see what, you know, his thoughts are, or like what his sketches would be if he were given the chance to do a dress for someone in pageantry. And so, you know, this is something that I wait for. And he dabbled in pageantry some time back. He did the national costume for Kylie Verzosa. So for him to be back in pageantry with this beautiful gown, I think we should welcome him with open arms. So for Sam, what he did was an inspired gown by Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, and you can really see the classical details that he put into designing the gown. So you see a lot of Greek draping, you see a lot of mother of pearl on silk charmeuse, so you see a lot of movements actually, and there was a lot of detail work in the bodice and the way it was outlined by metallic paillettes. So I think if I can make a bit of a comparison, I would compare this maybe to an Armani work, because Armani also does a similar palette, and Armani also does a similar treatment on the fabric. So I like that. This time around, it had a pleated nautilus style at the skirt, so you could see a lot of draping. If you're into fashion, you would see a lot of inspiration taken maybe from Fortuny, maybe also from Madame Grey, but whatever that was, I think that it was just perfect. I could actually see maybe stars in Cannes. We're glad that the pageant-loving fans had an appreciation for this gown, which means that their taste levels have heightened beyond the blingy gowns of MGI. And my number 1 spot goes to someone that a lot of people are really rooting for these days, and I think that she is enjoying the competition. She's having fun. I'm talking about Jasmine Umali of Manila in her Nat Manilag green gown. I thought it was a really fun way to showcase the gown. When I first saw the video, I thought it was a little flimsy at first, and maybe I thought about something more structured for Jasmine Umali because it would have been really easy to go the sexy route. But I played the video again and I found more joy in her performance. So first of all, it was a good combination of a playful gown as well as a playful performance. But when I say playful, a lot of people are saying Tita, it's more like MGI. I don't really see it. Just because she was smiling the whole time doesn't mean that this is, an MGI type of pasarela with, hip swaying from east to west. I think the MGI comment was because of the joy she brought in the competition. There were no audiences. It was just an empty space. It was really nice to see a little bit of interaction, even if there were no one there really. So seeing Jasmine in that drapey gown by Nat Manilag, it was green. Yeah, at first I really wasn't for it, but looking at it and playing the video again, now it makes me think of a narrative. Do you remember how Ariel in The Little Mermaid, when she was turned into a human, she grabbed like whatever she could to cover herself, and then she fashioned a dress out of, what was that, like a tarpaulin or something covering the boat? I had the same feelings with how I saw Jasmine work this dress. I imagined her as a mermaid grabbing maybe a bejeweled net to wrap around her body, and for me, she looked like a sea goddess. She was really happy. That was a really good gown performance. So yeah, there you go, guys. Now, there were a number of patterns that I saw from this preliminaries as well. Apart from the 10 who performed best for me, I thought that there were a number of ladies who wore wave patterns. So this is the reason why I kind of got a little underwhelmed, because it was the same thing, repetitively. We also had the ladies, which I call the statuesque silver sirens. Does that sound right? Because I figured out that all of these ladies from this collage are actually the tallest. And I have the likes of Noelyn Campos, who was in a bejeweled silver dress as well. Later on, we had Victoria Velasquez Vincent, who was, of course, in gunmetal silver. And then, of course, Leren. We also had Sam, who had more of a pearly, iridescent silver. And, of course, one of the ladies that are being talked about these days, Jane Nicole Mignano, who also had that silvery fringe thing going on. And if I can add more ladies to the list, I would actually like to add Iloilo. I really liked her gown. Maybe she could have delivered this in a more commanding manner, because I felt that she was just slouchy a little bit, and that she was a little tentative with her movements. And then I also liked Aklan's, although I felt that her gown was more on the simple side. And I also liked Isabella. This was a gold gown that was inspired by Esther from the Bible. This was made by Gian Lasala. I thought that it was a simple gown, but it served its purpose. So there you go, guys. Goodbye.